Hi, so I'm Dr. Amy Kavanagh. I'm blind and I advocate for low vision access needs around gaming and life generally. And I'm also a mum, which I will be mentioning a little bit. And I advocate across all different areas from public transport, digital inclusion, museums, theatres. Basically, if it's something I enjoy in my life, I'll be advocating about it. And my favourite game at the moment is I'm playing um, Life is Strange Double Exposure, which is super fun. Who'd like to go
Awesome.
next?
I'll go next because I'm here. Hi, everybody. I'm Lauren, also known as Radders Online. I am a disabled content creator, Twitch ambassador, cool person, also very weird. I got cats, and I do a lot of advocacy in the space, mostly for cognitive and mobility needs in the gaming space and elsewhere. But I also attempt is the word to advocate for disabled creators on Twitch as a whole. So that's always a fun thing to do. And my favorite game at the moment is Lies of P. I haven't finished it yet, but I'm absolutely in love with the story and everything about it. And I just want to see how big my little boy's nose grows. It's gonna get so long. And that's
Matt,
me.
do you want to go next?
Yeah, I'm Matt, more commonly known these days as the Wobbly Gamer. I'm a visually impaired content creator, accessibility advocate, and accessibility consultant for the video games industry. Yeah, so I'm visually impaired. I've got a condition called nystagmus, which causes my pupils to wobble, which causes my head to then wobble. Wobbly Gamer. My favorite game at the minute, I'm still very deep into Kingdom Come Deliverance 2. Been streaming that on Twitch and just really enjoying the chaos that it brings.
Matt, I'm going to get you to do that intro again because we had a weird little audio blibble. Did anyone
So
else
what
get
that'll
that?
I
be
heard
is
that. I heard that.
that will be a plane flying over my house because I live next to an American airbase.
Ah,
Oh,
Lovely.
man.
Yeah, it's really helpful. Just give me 2 seconds. I'll just make sure the windows are shut.
I live near Heathrow, so I mean, it's not quite the
I live
same.
near a military airbase, so
aw,
Melody, do you live
it's
near an
very
airport? Are
active.
you missing out again here?
yeah, I'm missing out. I live near a big B&Q. Does that count?
Occasionally, somebody is going to crash with one of them
True.
forklifts.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's the most. So I literally live in between two American air bases. So we're under two flight paths and it's great.
Love that.
Oh,
Yeah.
loud. Right, do your intro
Yep.
again, Matt.
Hi everyone, I'm Matt, more commonly known these days as the Wobbly Gamer. I'm a visually impaired content creator, accessibility advocate, and accessibility consultant for the video games industry. I have a condition which is known as nystagmus that causes my pupils to wobble uncontrollably, which then I have a lovely side effect that causes my head to wobble, hence the Wobbly Gamer. At the moment, my favorite game is Kingdom Come 2. I've been streaming that over on Twitch and just enjoying the chaos.
Thanks, Matt. Melody.
Hi, I am Melody. I am passionate about fighting for diversity, inclusion, and representation in all forms of media, but especially in gaming. Um, I have a physical disability and ADHD, so I get the fun combination of being distracted all the time, but also trying to actually get access requirements in place while also forgetting what I'm doing. I struggle with my fine motor skills and reaction times in games, and I often find that there's not that many sort of accessibility things available for reaction times, especially in sort of the shooters. Um, and I also work the words. Can I start again?
Of course you can.
My brain stopped. Thank you. I'm Melody. I am passionate about fighting for diversity, inclusion, and representation in all media, but especially in gaming. I struggle with the fine motor skills and reaction times, which is quite difficult, especially in sort of shooter games, which I do enjoy watching, but every time I try and play, I am usually dead by the time I realize someone's shooting at me. I also work in inclusive education and trying to make just education as a whole more representative of the real world and society. My current favorite game is probably Power Wash Simulator because I recently got back into it and it is extremely addictive.
And soothing, I think.
Yes, definitely soothing.
Do you have the Shrek DLC?
I do.
Oh well, now
Okay.
now I'm gonna have to check that out. So my first question to everyone is what was your journey into advocacy? And that could be both kind of in and outside of gaming, if one started and then gaming kind of found you afterwards, or if it was gaming and then that's opened up more. Who'd like to go first?
I can.
Sure.
So my journey into advocacy was a complete accident. Total accident. It was never my intention. I had become semi-recently disabled with ME/CFS. I at the time didn't know that I had autism and ADHD as well. So equally exhausting. And I was just, I'm like Sisyphus pushing the boulder, but the boulder is just my fatigue, the never-ending fatigue. And I kind of just like got into gaming as a way of having some kind of entertainment, some kind of new experiences, whilst also not really being able to get out of bed or function in a meaningful way. And ended up meeting a lot of other disabled creators online, disabled gamers in general. I got speaking to developers, and it just kind of was like a natural evolution of being an outspoken disabled person and a person that cares about video games and other people's experiences as well. And it was just this perfect little melting pot where it just fit for me. And I've been really, really lucky to have met the people that I've met. I've worked on a bunch of really cool projects. I judged for the Game Awards, which is like really cool and something I never thought that I would ever be anywhere near. But it's been fantastic, and yeah, advocacy is great. And I mean, I get to know you three, and you're awesome. So it's fantastic.
What about you, Melody? Where did it start for you?
I guess it's always kind of been a thing because I've always been frustrated that I haven't been able to play video games like everyone else. And I would complain about it all the time to everyone. I was a very annoying child. And that just kind of carried on into adulthood. And then I kind of realized actually I can make a difference if I talk to the right people about the right things, that other little kids won't have to sit there and be frustrated that the buttons don't do what they think they do. And yeah, I guess I just kind of got into making sure that other people don't have to go through the frustration and can just enjoy the fun side of video games without having to make it work for them. So it's just plug and play like it is for everyone else.
Love it. How about you, Matt?
I kind of fell into it very much by accident. I think I found out a few years ago I was losing my usable vision. It was kind of with a brain condition up in the air about time length and things like that. And I kind of left the hospital, and one of my first thoughts was, I'm going to still be able to play video games with my friends. And found the accessibility space, found out that I liked the sound of my own voice, which we kind of always knew. So talking to people about it wasn't going to be an issue. And then 7 years later, here we are kind of working with like just opportunities have arisen. Like Radaz has said, you kind of get cool projects, and then you meet amazing people like yourselves, and then you find yourself in this space and finding that actually there is 1,000,001 different reasons to fight for video game accessibility, not just the fact I want to be able to play games with my mates anymore. It kind of becomes a totally different ball game. You're doing it for others, not just yourself, I think.
Yeah, that's a real theme, isn't it? It's kind of realizing, well, I have this need or I'm feeling excluded, and then you find others in the same situation, and that is simultaneously kind of less isolating, but also empowers you to want to act for change. I mean, this probably speaks for a lot of us, but the reason I'm here is Ian. In sort of 2019 and 18, Ian saw me tweeting about playing video games, and I already had kind of a growing platform on Twitter. May she rest in peace. Because because I was advocating around lots of other areas around visual impairment and access and, being a white cane user and public transport and kind of just encountering lots of different barriers. And Ian messaged me out of the blue and was like, "Hi, I see you enjoy talking about blindness and stuff. Would you like to come and do it at this video games conference?" And yeah, it was one of the first times I'd ever been part of that community, and I was quite kind of intimidated by it. And I mean, my first talk tells a lot of the story of my relationship with gaming. So, go check that out in the archive. But ever since then, it's kind of like being part of a lovely family. And for lots of reasons that I'll talk about, my life is not as centered around gaming as I wish it was. But it's like kind of the accessibility buddies, they're always sort of there. And, when I emailed Ian about, this year's conference, I was like, "Oh, I think I might have this idea or this idea." And then he was like, "Oh, we want to do this panel, you should do that." And it's like there's always a space for somebody's journey or somebody's message or someone's experience here. And I think that's an incredibly powerful thing. Do any of you have a particular moment where you've kind of felt like, yeah, I'm an advocate now, I've achieved a thing?
Do I go straight deep in and go with the death threats, or
Yeah. You've skipped ahead a bit there, Matt, but
Yeah.
sure.
Do we
Yeah.
go straight in with that one? Yeah, that's kind of, I think I definitely remember getting a message from someone saying you're not really an advocate until you've received a good level of death threat. And I was like, yeah, I've just had that. So welcome to the family, kind of thing. You're one of us. Yeah.
Yeah, I think, yeah,
Mhm.
you're doing well if you're annoying someone,
That's,
right?
yeah, that's kind of what I'm angling towards in the much nicer way of putting it there, Amy, is you're not doing well until someone's really angry at you, apparently. And that's, yeah, when you get there, you sure as hell know about it.
Any other slightly more joyful moments of success? Lauren, you
Um,
were mentioning the gaming awards.
Yeah, when innovation and accessibility became a category, I think it was 2018. I think it was the first year of it. I think it's been about 6, 7 years now. Yeah. I got an email from Jeff Keighley, and I was like, Am I allowed to swear? Sorry.
Yeah, I think you are.
What the fuck are you doing emailing me? I was nobody, you know? And then it was just like, oh, we're contacting a bunch of like vocal people in the gaming space that do focus on accessibility, whether it's like as a full-time job or just like as a advocacy sort of thing. And they invited me to like nominate, and I got very excited about that. And then a couple years later, they invited me to be a nominator and a judge. So I'm like, oh. Yeah, that was kind of a moment where I was like, okay, apparently what I'm saying matters to someone else other than like me. And that was very validating, which is great. It didn't make me any money, but I'm not sure advocacy is the space to be doing it for the money.
Sometimes it is, sometimes it isn't, right? What about you, Melody?
I think like similar to Lauren and Matt is the first time somebody contacted me asking me on my opinion for something to do with the game, I was like, oh, why? Why though? Oh, because you respect what I have to say. That's weird. And yeah, I guess it's just that reassurance of, yeah, you are actually having an impact and that you're making a change, because you obviously that's your goal when you're speaking out and saying things, but I don't know, there's always that part of you that's kind of expecting people to just kind of like nod along and go, yeah. But once you actually start to see people reaching out to you or other friends that you've made who are also advocates, and you're just like, oh my God, people are actually just doing this out of their own free will. They're not being made to. This is amazing. I think that's the moment. And I kind of get it every time someone messages me, even though it's been like 3, 4 years now. I still get those little butterflies of people care. This is exciting.
I
Val-
think, go ahead, Matt.
I was going to say validation from the community itself
Yeah.
is the biggest one, like that, when someone you respect or have respected for years and years also reaches out and kind of goes, hey, I've got an opportunity and I think you'd be good for it. And you do have that, oh my God, he picked me out of everyone. That means I must be doing something right. Yeah. It definitely does validate it and brings you that moment of, yeah, like you've said, that little bit of glee.
And I think maybe it's just, for everyone enjoying this, it's a moment to say nice things to the people who are doing good stuff, right? You're not always going to be able, obviously, pay us if you can, but actually sometimes just that recognition and that, oh, what you said was useful, or I had the same experience and you speaking about that made a difference to me. That sometimes, when the rest of the inbox might be the death threats, that's kind of what advocates need sometimes. And it can be really transformative. Who else do you think is doing it really well? Can you reflect on any experiences or examples of where you've seen some really successful advocacy moments? Maybe something that's, empowered you, or just something that you've just been impressed by?
Can I talk about a moment that, according to staff, was directly as a result of my accessibility
Yes.
feedback?
Yes.
Yes.
Last year's TwitchCon, I go to it, I have a panel, get wheeled into the panel room, and then a member of staff that was there, she was very excited to see me. She was like, "Oh, I want to show you, I want to show you." She takes me to the back of the stage and they have a built-in ramp. And she was like, because you specifically very much talked to us about this last year when we didn't have a ramp available for your panel, we've made sure every single stage has a built-in ramp. And I was just like, really? Because I did something good. I did something that actually meant that it wasn't just me as a disabled creator that benefited from that. It's any creator that has any kind of issues. Maybe they hurt their foot because they walked too far the first day of the con and they still need to get on stage. They've got a nice ramp to do it now. And it means so much to know that, like, I have actually made change. Like, it's very concrete change that, like, people can see, you know? So it was very exciting.
Yeah.
And
I,
validating as well.
I had a similar moment. I remember, I think it might have been during some training I delivered, or it might have even been at GA where I made a comment around how I wish I could enjoy the hype around game adverts and sneak peeks and YouTube videos as much as everybody else. And I said, I'm so excited. I love Assassin's Creed, and I would love the next, coming soon release advert video to have audio description. And then I don't know how long after that, I got a little PM in my inbox from somebody at Ubisoft with just a link to the audio described Valhalla trailer and said, "This is for you." And I know I was not the sole person. Like, obviously, there are many people who work behind the scenes to make that happen. But the fact that that had been remembered as something and that it had been sent to me was so powerful and beautiful. And then I could get involved in all the hype. And I loved that moment and obviously shared it loads and shed a few tears. And I think, you don't always get massive, massive wins. Sometimes it's just the small changes as well that can really make a big impact. What about Matt and Melody? Have you got any good examples?
I
Doesn't have.
love it when I see someone else trending on social media. Not necessarily trending massively, but when you see someone, another content creator, and you see them like, oh, that's a large amount of impressions. And I know in a lot of other spaces it'd be instantaneous jealousy, probably. But actually, you kind of go, actually, no, we need that. We need someone like Arovia to get
Yeah.
50,000 views on a tweet, because when they see that and they see someone that's so good at it and they see them trending, it's actually like people, it's mind the pun from me, it can be eye-opening because people kind of go straight away, what's accessibility? What is she talking about? And then you don't know if they're diving a bit deeper into it. And when you see someone else kind of go viral a little bit on social media with regards to an accessibility post, whether that's on TikTok or Twitter, may she rest in peace, anywhere like that, it does make you kind of go, yay, it's working. It's not we're not sitting here and just talking to each other, because sometimes it can feel like that. It gets shared massively inside our own space, but when you kind of see one break the barrier, and that's when you do have a bit of a yay, punch the air moment. It's working. It's not, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, mine's kind of the same. Like, because I often feel that when you're working in the advocacy space, that's all you see on the social media that you use, because that's what the algorithm feeds you. So when I hear it from my mum or my partner that they've seen something in the news about, I don't know, this game winning an award for its accessibility, or, something like that, I'm like, oh, wow, that's like real people news. It's got to the real
Yeah.
people news. That's amazing. And yeah, there needs to be more of that. But it seems that in the more recent times, it has started to get to the mainstream media, which is really, really good.
So we've talked about some of those joys and those empowering moments, and when it gets to the real people news, I love that. What are some of the challenges about using streaming or content creation as a disability advocate?
Oh, where do
I was about to say,
start?
yeah. How long can we got? Because I'm renowned for my talks going far longer than I need to because I ran.
I'll very
Yeah.
quickly just mention my thing. I think I forgot at the beginning of my intro to mention that I have ME/CFS, autoimmune disease on top of that called Sjogren's. I got diagnosed 2.5 weeks ago with ADHD and autism, and I am very swiftly realizing my entire life is fatigue. But unfortunately, especially with a condition like ME/CFS, where there are always consequences for every bit of energy you use, that is the thing that holds me back the most. Oh, hey, Kat. That's the thing that holds me back the most in my life, and with advocacy and with content creation and with streaming, because my God, is it difficult to do what the algorithm begs you to do, which is to be online all the time, always talking, always hyping things up, creating, going onto every other platform possible. You've got to be on every platform all the time, creating that. There is no opportunity to rest and recover and take care of yourself if you want to be seen. And as somebody who pretty much spends 99% of their life in their house, I already don't get seen. So it's not fun. And that makes it very, very difficult. And it can get quite isolating and a bit depressing, because I know I'm entertaining. I know I speak well, and I don't speak on topics that I am not got a knowledge on. I won't sit there and deliberately spread a bunch of, misinformation for attention and clicks and drama. I'm not that kind of person. But I'm not online enough to really get the reach that somebody who can be online a lot more often does. And I think it goes for all of us, whatever your disability, it has an impact on your life in some way. And that impact makes you not ideal for the algorithm to chew you up and spit you out, you know?
Matt?
Let's talk about what happens the moment you mention disability. That's the other one, isn't it?
Yep.
To put it like that, it's basically the moment you say disability, you kind of feel the room go, oh, not that again. And it's like, hold on, what? Yeah. And that's how it feels sometimes, doesn't it? And what else can you say other than, when I've known it for a fact, like when you on Twitch, for example, we get a big raid. Sometimes the moment you mention disability or the fact you're fighting for something or you actually care about something, people, your numbers half and you're like, well, funny that, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, or you have to deal with 90 billion. But if you're blind, how can you play a game? You're faking it. Your eyes look normal.
Oh
a
yeah,
lie.
yeah.
I've heard people go, "Oh, you're not disabled, you're just fat," and it's like, I put
Okay.
on makeup. That's why I don't look disabled. You can't see the soul just eking out of me right now, because I am so goddamn tired all the time. I hide it for your pleasure,
Yeah.
okay? So don't try to tell me I'm not who I am, what I am. Like,
Yeah.
it's like everybody has this preconceived notion in their head of exactly what every disability looks like,
Yeah,
Yeah.
well,
right?
the thing is, you're either not
And the
disabled
moment,
enough or you're too disabled.
Yeah.
yeah, and
And
they're
no
like,
one's
oh,
ever
if you're
happy.
so disabled, how can you do this thing? And it's like, hello, have you heard of variability in the day-to-day experience? Like, some days are pretty good, and I can actually manage to do this thing. But I can't tell you about the 4 days before and after where I either rested solidly and did nothing with my life to prepare for this event. And then you don't see everything afterwards, all of the pain, the exhaustion, the vomiting,
Yeah.
the symptoms, the everything that happens as a result of doing like any good thing. They don't see that because I'm not live streaming 24/7 my awful experiences.
Mm.
I think for me as well, that time limiting comes from access needs, but I'm also a part-time working parent, and the few working hours that I have, if I don't make money during those working hours, I'm facing a loss because I've got to pay for childcare. So when I've got 3 hours of childcare, do I schlep myself over to deliver some customer experience training where I'm going to get paid a decent rate for that? Or do I sit on Twitch and then spend hours making videos, which I'll be lucky if I get a few pence or pounds from that. And so for me, I can't afford what the algorithm needs. And unfortunately, it feels like what the industry needs because I'm still here and I'm still playing games. It's just I'm playing them very quietly after my toddler's gone to bed, and I still have lots of thoughts and opinions on them. But when I've spent a whole day with a 2-year-old, I physically can't stream. And for those devs and the industry watching, some of us are still here and we're still playing, but just because we're not kind of performing it doesn't mean we don't have perspectives. And we still have really valuable insight. And there are ways to find us that are not just through, who's got the best sponsorship deals or who can be the most kind of visible and popular and get affiliated and all that stuff that I just can't do. I just don't have the time for it. Maybe I will in 5 to 10 years again if it's still around, but it's making me feel like I can't add value because I can't stream.
I completely agree with that. I had to take a step back from streaming for a good 6, 7 months because I had to get a part-time job because I had no money and because I have chronic fatigue along with my physical disabilities. I was in bed the hours I wasn't working. So I lost that whole following I'd worked so hard to build up,
I know.
and it was all gone. And it was like, how do I come back from that? And it was a really hard thing to just go, okay, stop overthinking it, stop thinking about how the algorithm is working against you, and just get back into it and get back to doing what you want to and helping build a better world of gaming and inclusion. But it's such a hard thing to fight the algorithm because it's constantly telling you you're not good enough. And it is such a battle mentally, which is even more exhausting if you have chronic fatigue.
Yeah, even when you do have the capacity to stream and you are looking for sponsorships and stuff like that, it's still the battle and a half because unfortunately companies look straight at your numbers.
Yeah.
There's what difference do you actually make? How do you actually impact our product? I say this a lot where I probably make video games more money than people with thousands of views because my community trust my opinion on accessibility. They trust my
Right.
opinion on the video game. They come to me and go, if I buy it, can I actually play it? And I will go yes or no. And if I say yes, they 90% of the time will go and buy that game because they trust my opinion. I'm not just sat here screaming and shouting at the game to get some clicks.
Yeah.
It's even when you've got the ability to stream and it's still facing that moment of, well, I need to work with this company, but actually to get a product, they need me to have 50 average viewers on one platform, 1 million views on another platform, and then to promise to make 14 hours of content on a chair. And it's like, hold on, what? This isn't this isn't accessible. This isn't going to happen anytime soon. And it's, yeah, Radaz is laughing because she knows the pain of it as well.
Yeah.
I
I
think
also know the pain of just like being a disabled person trying to make money off of like, creation and stuff, and then basically barely even being able to pay your bills. It's definitely not stressful, nor an experience I'm currently going through. So, uh,
I think you made such a
great.
you made such a good point though, Matt. And I think this is what I would like people to pay attention to. And my kind of follow-up question was, is streaming, is content creation actually the right platform for advocacy? But I think Matt's kind of answered it because, yeah, if I watch Matt play a game, I'll buy it because I know I can play it if Matt can play it. And that goes for so many people in the community where I feel like maybe it's not making us money, but are we finding the right audiences? How are we building those communities? Can anyone tell us a bit more about those communities, what you're part of? How have you built those? What support networks exist around advocacy and gaming as a disabled person? Who wants to go first?
I don't mind jumping in on that one.
Yeah.
So we've kind of worked with the RNIB previously on things, and we've set up gaming groups for people with visual impairment across the country via the RNIB. And it's amazing because they've just become friends through gaming. And also they've become people that support me as a streamer, as a content creator. And they also make me feel like I'm doing a good. Like I know that sounds stupid, but one of the we've all had imposter syndrome, got imposter syndrome. And the biggest barrier for me, or not barrier, the biggest thing that got me through the imposter syndrome was at an event, and I had people that were in part of my community thank me for what I'm doing. And it was like, because I didn't know I was any good at it. I was just like, I thought I was just rambling on social media. And they were like, no, thank you, because you're making a difference. And that's from people inside my own community. And that was the biggest thing for me, being able to kind of validate what I'm doing and kind of get up in the morning and do it, was when someone from my own community that we'd helped build turned around to me at an event and was like, just, I've never said this, but thank you. And when it comes from your own community, I was dumbfounded. I didn't know what to say, what to do. And it's massive when it comes from your own community that you've helped build through different channels, whether you've built it for yourself using Discord on your channel or you've got done for a charity that support these people. It community is the biggest reason I do this now, without a doubt.
I think one of the incredible things about the content creation space in general is just how much good you can do for what seems like relatively little. Obviously, it all depends on your own personal like situation, but the amount of money I've been able to raise for charity
Yes.
is unreal. Like more than I ever could have expected. Over 30,000 on Tiltify just by myself.
Wow.
And then there's like Just Giving and a bunch of other things. And I was taking part in the Jingle Jam for a few years with the Oxcast, which always raises a huge amount of money, and it's an incredible thing. Um, and I think even though the we don't live an algorithm friendly life,
No.
what we do have, these communities that we build for ourselves, these spaces of people that understand us, that get us, that see all of the things that we struggle with and support us regardless. Maybe they see something, part of them in our experiences, and they trust us. And it's such a privilege to have that trust, but then also to be able to use that trust and community to do so much good for the world and for other people, to those that are like less fortunate, knowing that you are changing the world for the better makes it all worth it, even when it gets really difficult.
That was very powerful. Thank you. And you have achieved incredible fundraising goals, and you should be suitably proud of that. Melody, what about you? Where's your
Yeah,
community?
I mean, I think I like the fact about online spaces communities anyway, because being a disabled person, you are more than likely going to be spending more times out of work, out of school, out of whatever it is, because your life is more unpredictable. So trying to have those local communities is a harder thing. So having the gaming community, the streaming community, just having that with you in your pocket, the fact that it's portable is such an important thing. And it's also great because you can have that intersectionality of communities that wouldn't necessarily mix in day-to-day life. Because unfortunately, the way society is set up, disabled people and non-disabled people don't tend to mix in the same circles, whether it's due to the pub not being accessible or just there's no disabled parking, so it's really hard to get to. So the fact that by doing advocacy, you can improve the lives for disabled people, but you can also educate non-disabled people on other life experiences that unfortunately you don't really get to learn about in day-to-day life, which is very weird that we kind of have these two separate lifestyles that go on. Because the amount of times I've had people message me going, whoa, I didn't realize some people would have to lie in bed all week just to go to an all-day event. Wow, people actually lived like that? It's like, yeah, they do. How do you not know this? But no, it's just so great to see other people's knowledge of difference growing.
I agree. And I think when content creating, although it can come with a lot of stress and hostility, it is those powerful moments where either you think, oh, there's somebody who gets that now. Like I had somebody, I do lots of content creation with my guide dog Ava on TikTok. She is a popular internet dog. She gets recognized, and then I have to be like, "Hi, yes, I hold on to her." And I've had people comment that now it's made them really aware of things like when an e-bike or an e-scooter has been left across a pavement and they move it because they've seen Ava have to guide me into the road around that kind of object. And they've seen how stressful that is. And that is really powerful, social media, streaming. It's given disabled people a voice that we are quite often still denied in traditional media. And it allows us to tell our own stories. And you're right, Melody, it helps us find each other as well. And I love that. I love that I get to meet all sorts of people who live with different experiences of visual impairment all around the world. And I learn about all different types of disabilities and impairments and access needs. And it enriches my life that so many people do share their lived experience. And that is so valuable and important. Talking about sort of being an advocate online, and we've touched on this a bit, and I'm, Rad, as I said, you've had quite a stressful time at the moment around it. What do you do to manage that well-being and those access needs? I'm going to say self-care strategies. It's a phrase that is overused, but I think as disabled people, we invented self-care. So we're the experts to talk on it.
Honestly, it's very difficult. And it really depends on my needs at the time. I had a pretty lengthy withdrawal from the accessibility space a couple of years ago. I was dealing with some pretty nasty PTSD regarding disability treatment from the UK government. And I just did not feel safe in any way. I did not feel safe to talk about my experience or to be myself publicly online because I felt like I was just being watched and judged constantly. And in that regard, like in that moment, my self-care was to take a step back. It's not a thing that I wanted to do, but it was something that meant I was able to come back once I'm not recovered, but I'm able to actually like be me again. So that's at least progress. But I think all of us as advocates, no matter what we're going through, no matter what health issues we're dealing with, life issues, anything like that, it is so important to actually do the kind of crap thing and step back when we need to. Even if it feels like we're going to be forgotten forever, because I wasn't. Ian invited me to this and I've never done a GA conf before. And this is me and my sort of like return to the space. So at the end of the day, like all of us in the space are important. And we all care about one another, and we care about making sure that we all have, we have the best lives possible, that we're all taking care of ourselves. I care about you all taking care of yourselves more than any content you could create. And I think the same goes for all of us. So yeah, it really is about like actually, I call it radical rest
Yes.
because it's enforcing rest upon yourself, even when that internal part of you from all the ableism of life tells you that you have to do stuff, you have to be productive, or you are a burden to the world. Because we're not. I might have to watch this back later so that I can
Yeah, I
remind
was thinking
myself.
that myself.
Yeah.
I was like, I should probably clip that.
Yeah, can we clip that? Rest.
But post it, send it to me, please. And then I can rewind it and watch it every time I start to feel down about the fact that I've had to rest really intensely just so I could do that thing that I wanted to do. But yeah, to me, the most important thing is just do the self-care, no matter what it is. If you need it, do it, because your future self will always thank you for doing it. And everyone else will as well.
Yeah.
We like happy people. We like healthy people. We like people that are doing the best they can with what life has thrown at them. And that best is sometimes just resting. And I want that for everyone.
It's so true. And it is radical to rest. It really is, because it does challenge the idea that you must constantly be productive in this society, because being a rested, mentally well person is productive. I think you're so right that turning off, stepping back can be essential. I think also for me, and I've had to do this a lot, is to go, actually, that's not my fight. And I really hate walking away from that fight, but it's not mine. And there might actually be somebody who's better equipped to do it and who understands the space better, who has more time. And I would really, if I had some recommendations around advocacy and well-being, it would be to have those networks, like I mentioned before, and kind of work out who are your, I mean, I'm not going to go full socialist republic on this, but, find your comrades, like who can share that work. Like I'm part of a consultancy at Playability, and that's a great place to be, because it was offered to me and I thought, fantastic. Like I don't have the time to do the admin or hunt for the work, but there's somebody who will do that, and then we work together and we collaborate on the outcomes. And so sometimes it's about resource sharing, it's about passing the mic, it's about going, you know what, actually I think Matt would speak better on this than me, or Melody passing it to someone else and saying, you know what, they have some expertise in this and I don't have to fight every single fight. And I'll be really, really honest, like sometimes I choose a different fight, because as much as I love gaming, it's very rarely safety critical for me to have an accessible game. And this is what I also want people to understand, is sometimes the fight that I'm having, which means I don't have the time to have the conversation about, what high contrast mode is best, is that I'm really scared about actually being allowed into a hospital with my guide dog, with my poorly baby. Like that's the fight I might be having somewhere else. And that's going to be my priority. And I might need to come back to that conversation about what is the best, contrast or text size or quick time event solution. And that's not to take away from the vital importance of many of these accessibility features. But if you get that message from an advocate saying, I'm just dealing with some other stuff right now, that's not necessarily them being rude or they've snuck off to a competitor. It might be that the other stuff is just their right to be able to work or walk down their street safely or access some healthcare or take that radical rest that they need. What do you think, Matt and Melody?
Yeah, I mean, I think so much of being disabled is fighting. You are constantly fighting, whether you are choosing to be an advocate or not, you are always advocating for yourself, no matter what. Like, you can't get into your local shop, so you complain, they now have a ramp. You're an advocate. it's these small things that you're doing all the time that you don't realize is taking up your mental energy. That by the time you get to the end of the week, you're like, I just can't think. I can't do anything. And it's really hard trying to break that cycle of fighting everything, because you want everything to get better, but you've got to try and be mindful that yes, you feel like you can do it now, but will you be thinking that at the end of the week when your friend has asked if you want to go for a drink and you can't because you've used all of your energy? And I definitely think that's what I've struggled with the most, is accepting that it's okay to say no to some things.
Yeah.
That's not you taking yourself out of the race and out of space. You're just saying, I can't do this one right now. I've got 1,000 other things going on in my life, and I just need to sit and watch TV for a minute. And that's okay.
Is anyone else not good at practicing what they preach, though? That's the question.
Yeah. Hello.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, that's me to a
me.
T.
Hit
Yeah.
me.
I just thought I'd breach that one because I'm quite renowned for not practicing what I preach on that side of things. Yeah, we all put pressure on ourselves. Let's not lie and beat around the bush and sit there and be like, oh no, I'm perfect. I'm not. I'm far away from it. I am. Yeah, I'm advocate massively for mental health. Go through burnouts in the past and things like that, and then you sit there and you go, probably need to do that myself and practice what I preach. And yeah, it's not easy because you do, like I said, you do sometimes feel like you've got the weight of the world on your shoulders when you're advocating for something and you're advocating a community that's close to your heart and stuff. It's always difficult, and then you don't practice what we preach, because I'm the first one to reach out to someone and be like, I've seen you around a lot lately. Are you taking time off? What are you doing? And then sitting there going, probably should step away for a bit and not put so much pressure on myself. It'll be all right. I'll sort it out in the end. And yeah,
I think
I
that's
think
we kind of need the Matts of this world to kind of do that though, because I was going to say you need to call in before you call out, right? And actually, sometimes it needs that supportive other person who understands to say, hey, I notice you are working very hard. Are you okay? And um, things like I've become really quite militant about my out of office, and that I have really, really clear information in my out of office that I'm a disabled person, and people have to change their expectations about normative working. And sometimes I think you just have to keep saying it out loud, because that in of itself is advocacy, to talk about rest, to talk about part-time and flexible work, to talk about mental well-being and taking breaks. And no, I'm not going to answer your email on a Sunday evening. But yeah, I think that's part of kind of the combination about self-care strategies and community. It's sometimes I think we kind of all need to do a map to each other and sort of check in and be that voice of reason when we're not practicing what we preach.
it's also really hard as well when it's a whirlwind.
Yeah.
Like advocacy is one hell of a whirlwind. It's a roller coaster. It's up, it's down, it's left, it's right. You have emotional highs, you have emotional lows, and sometimes it's working out how do you deal with that roller coaster. And especially as quite a lot of us are neurodivergent, we get hit harder than most with that emotional roller coaster. And yeah, we it's about saying no. I learned that, and learning that you do have to step away and say no, which is really hard when you are freelance
Yes.
and you
Yup.
yeah
Yeah.
and you need to be paid and
Yeah.
yeah
And
and I could be here for hours. Yeah.
So
so
if anybody watching
Yeah.
has some work going,
Yeah,
yeah.
maybe if you could pay
We're
me for
all
doing
free.
nothing. Yeah, if maybe if you could pay me for doing
Hey.
nothing for a couple of days, that'd be quite nice as well, you know?
do you want to sponsor me to sleep on stream? I
Yeah.
will do
Yeah,
that.
no,
Give
I'm
me
there.
my...
Just in a really nice pair of headphones, right?
Oh yeah, yeah,
So, apart from maybe starting up a sleeping cam,
yeah.
what advice would you give to people starting out advocacy in the gaming industry? Try and keep it to one sentence.
Can I start with that? I just want to say two words. And I'd look back now and sometimes go, did I? And it's enjoy it.
Yes.
Because you get so many like all of us in this room have had amazing opportunities with different companies, different gaming experiences. And then because you're so work mode, sometimes you don't actually necessarily enjoy that moment. And when I say to people, one of the big things I say when you start advocacy is try and enjoy it. It's not easy, but try and enjoy it, because you have pinch me moments where you get an email from Xbox saying, "Would you like to come to this event?" And it's like, "Oh my God, I've played that console since I was like 6 years old." And you do have to pinch yourself. And I say to people, please, it's hard work. It's not easy, but at the same time, enjoy it.
Enjoy it. Love that. Melody?
I guess following with the 2-word thing is keep going. It's okay to take breaks, it's okay to step back, but you can always come back and continue where you left off. You are still an advocate if you are still willing to fight for inclusion and representation, no matter how many breaks you take.
Lauren?
My one sentence is going to be a couple words longer. But it is simply that no matter what is happening in the space, you are not alone. There are so many of us that have been doing this on and off for such a long time. And we're active on the various social medias. I prefer Blue Sky over rest in peace Twitter. And the space over there is so kind. And the advocacy space in all of the social medias is generally kind. We support one another. We always do, always will. So anytime you're feeling low or you're feeling like you're not getting your voice heard, we're here. We're here for you.
And mine is your needs are valid. And it's easy to lose sight of that when it feels like you keep repeating yourself about the same thing that isn't changing. And society encourages us to minimize and dismiss and talk down our access needs as disabled people. But your needs are valid. And when you speak about them, there is a queue of people behind you that you don't even know that are thinking exactly the same thing. And that's why it's worth it. Well, thank you very much, everybody. It's been powerful, it's been emotional, and I think we all need to go and have a little nap.
Sounds good.
Yeah.
Yeah, baby.
Don't need to
Blankets,
t-
cats.
Don't need to tell me
Times.
twice.